Hello, recording started. Thanks for joining me for a discussion on grants. Guys in the back, ladies in the front. Well, just borderline, you know what I mean? I'm Laura Casani, and I've been the Director of Grants at Brookdale Community College in Lincroft, New Jersey for 18 or so years. So I've been doing a lot of grants work for a long time. I generally have a colleague of mine, Cheryl Dietrich, who has also been in the grants business for quite some time, but she presents a California sort of story. When she comes up, she was unable to make it today. But basically, the story is that there's not a whole lot of funding in California anyway. So, you know, we'll talk a little bit about her services as a consultant. But just out of the audience, can you give me an idea, like, states you're from? New Jersey, Nevada, California, New Hampshire. Good. New York? Wow, all over the place. California. Okay. So a lot of California, but you basically know what the deal is with not a whole lot of state money and a lot of infighting about what's going on with community colleges and priority enrollments and things. There was an interesting article inside Higher Ed today. I don't know if you saw that. Take a look at that online. It discusses California's unique situation with community college enrollment. Today's agenda is really kind of open. I thought I would talk about what the federal funding outlook looks like. The trend in really foundation and private giving, and how the federal and the public and private entities work together to support various initiatives. Again, the California Funding Initiative is what it is, basically. But if anybody can add input to what's going on, that would be great. And then if we want to talk about putting together proposals, that's fine as well. But the real thing is there any specific questions that anybody would like me to address, or no? Okay. But as I talk, please feel free to ask questions, add comments. And as I said, my husband is in the back. Mike Casani, many of you probably know him. He's here for color commentary. What's that? Yes, exactly. Yes, not the whole end. I'll take it from anybody. Okay, so yeah.
Since you're asking, I'm new to the grant funding.
Okay.
But resources to go to find out what they're looking for.
Okay.
In order to satisfy a grant.
Okay, I have some slides on that, but we can actually talk about that too. And basically, I would tell you that everything is going to be online for the most part. That's where the most up-to-date information is going to be. But I can give you a couple of sites that are probably good. The first thing I was going to talk about was really the status of our federal appropriations. It was really just in the end of December that appropriations to most of the agencies, it completed each of the agencies, it completed all of the appropriations process. They were only settled in December. And so agencies are now, they know what money they have for 2012, and they can make decisions about what kinds of grants they can support. Some agencies have published the information, so if there's a program like the Department of Education has some information published about what kinds of support they're going to do for programming, a lot of that is flat funding. But the place to go is probably your the agency that you're interested in looking for funding. And with that comes, look, there will be funding announcements. There were funding announcements in the fall that meant nothing because there was no money behind them. And a lot of grants folks got very, very frustrated because they prepared applications, submitted them, only to learn that nothing was getting funded. There was not going to be fund downs or anything like that. So that was kind of frustrating. These should be, the appropriations and the grant announcements should be supported by the funds that the agency says they are at this point. So that's a good thing. It's a tough world to be in right now.
Yeah, so for the solicitations that were due late October, was that
for NSF, you're fine.
Oh.
NSF, you're fine. That didn't apply to NSF. I'm sorry.
There was a DOL initiative, for example.
Yes.
You applied for.
Yes. There were a handful of other agencies where the money was just not there.
A week later, DOL was a week later. Proposals went in, and a week later they said,
They said no. And they knew it. They knew it. But that does not apply to NSF. And NSF, I wish I could tell you more about funding levels for NSF, but because I'm sure they have their appropriations, but I don't know that they're divvied up yet. I haven't seen anything. I asked a couple of people in the know here. They didn't really know what level of funding we're looking forward to in the future for NSF. So that should be becoming available soon. Okay. But no, don't worry about, it was pretty tight in October. And more people, so it's more competitive. What kind of grant did you apply for? An ACE program project?
It's a center.
A center application. And we're, okay, yeah. They're a little bit few and far between, so.
Sure.
Yeah. Good luck to you. I think, again, that the spotlight remains on the community college as the place to go to, get initiatives accomplished. And these are some of the key priorities. Again, it's workforce development, but a lot of it is getting people jobs. We can do the training, but a lot of the funding is going to the agencies that can get the people to jobs. But there's a role for community colleges to play in the training, certainly. So that's fine. And again, adding 5 million graduates or certificate achievers to the pool by 2020 is a public and private initiative. Again, I think they really work hand in hand to sort of move that forward. At least it's an Obama initiative, and it is a Gates and other, top-level foundations priority. And educating, training, and graduating STEM students is a huge priority. There's focus on it, but there's a whole lot of money. Everything's being cut. A couple of initiatives that did come out. Anything to add? Good stuff?
He was asking whether he wasn't STEM.
Oh, okay. You got that answered? Good. From the gallery. There was a new opportunity that was just released. I found out about it. But of course, it's not for any of the community colleges to apply for. It's really to make systemic changes through your workforce investment board. Some states or some colleges have good relationships with their workforce investment boards. Others don't. We are lucky in that regard as well. So they would have to be, though, reliant on the community colleges in their catchment area, really to be able to do the training. But it's about more than that. It's about making changes and evaluating what they have, and the niche for the training is a little bit smaller.
But it's putting a plug for if you don't have an established relationship with the workforce investment board. I think most community colleges do, but it's so critical now more than ever, not just because of this kind of initiative that has to come through with but also because there's a number of initiatives that have to come through the community college, but must have a
With approval or approval or partnership, both.
Yeah, they usually have to sign off on it. Yeah. So it's good partners. Anyway.
No, they are. So does everybody know what their workforce investment board is? It's a county-based thing generally. I don't know if that's true in California or, and they deal with, the workforce initiatives and then all the one-stop stuff. And we get a lot of individuals into training programs based on their referrals. So some of your enrollments might be boosted because of the relationship you have, and it is good to have a great relationship with them. I agree. But anyway, so that's the first thing. That's probably the first release that we got based on appropriations being settled. Hey, color commentary. You want to add to this discussion? No, I'm kidding you. Go ahead. Chat. These are the dates for that. If you have influence with your WIB, or if you know the person that does workforce development on your campus, go to them and tell them, hey, touch base with the WIB, and I think you'll get this, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's true. So that's, it's not going to get you too far, but it could get you some training dollars. I put this up there just, I kind of inserted it because there was, say April of last year, there was a significant initiative also through the Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration, and every state, and for that competition in 2011, every state was guaranteed at least 0.5% of the money or something like that. Every state had to get an award, which could be up to $5 million, but every state had to get an award. New Jersey got like $450,000. We submitted about 3 or 4 applications, and the smallest application was the one that got funded. But there is a new round of funding, and I was invited to go to Washington next Thursday to talk with people from AACC and the Department of Labor to, I guess, maybe smooth out some rough edges on the RFP, and so that's interesting because it was a huge initiative, and this is what we're seeing. This is a trend we're seeing more and more of, multi-million-dollar awards that take really huge collaborative partnerships. A lead agency, it has to be coerced into being a lead agency.
Talk to us about the way they require the budget to be developed.
Oh, per activity, and yeah, we struggled with that, and I worked. When I worked, it was impossible. We had multiple schools doing it, and we submitted different kinds of budgets to one person, and to make sense out of it, I can try. It was a nightmare. So anyway, what you're forced to do is identify specific activities, and each activity had to have its dollar amount, and it was the most complex budget I've ever seen, and these were for $5 million. It was. It took me oh my goodness. I actually worked along with Cheryl, who's normally here, and she didn't make any sense out of it. She was helping to put together all of these budgets, and it was difficult. But anyway, it does call for innovation. It calls for some systemic change. It calls for disrupting the way you do business at your institution. So you have to get somebody on your side that has, or work with the team that has really sway over making some changes, even if it's like taking a cohort approach to teaching, a group of Spanish students, or it has to do with the trade adjustment assistance piece has less to do with the proposal than does what goes into it. But there's really, there's innovation, and a lot of college administrators don't recognize the level of change that would be required should something like this be funded. So you have to address it and be ready to move with it. We had basic skills faculty who were like very unwilling to make moves, so we couldn't do anything with basic skills, for instance, and that kind of thing. So anyway, it's on the horizon.
You don't know the date yet?
No. No. No.
I heard of it in January, but
I don't. Well, you know, it was interesting. The way the invitation to me came was that to talk about the SGA, and so I don't know if it meant that it was really already done, or if it was to have it. So I don't know that. Again, just there's a lot of focus. This is just to reiterate that there's a big focus on STEM projects. The National Governors Association, you know, indicates that STEM is huge.
My colleague is
He's.
I was just wondering that too. I've never seen it that way.
It could be my conversion from Keith. Yeah. Although I think, if I'm not mistaken, the report that I copied it from did do that. I keep it now. You know, let's chalk it up to. It went from what is it called, Michael? Keynote to PowerPoint and back and forth, and that's probably where that comes from. Is that good?
Often what you see with the funding agencies sometimes see is sort of not that it's little, but then it's discounted, that they're focused on science, engineering, and math, because that's what they think of as STEM, which is technology for the human lives. So, I mean, engineering is an area that gets funded. So,
It should be bigger.
It should be bigger? Yeah, okay. All right. I'll write to the National Governors Association. I do like the color commentary back there. Let me see what it does to you. See, I think I changed this one because I didn't like the little A. But again, these are some of the initiatives that the governors see as important to STEM. And you may or may not agree with them all, but I think that the focus that is on STEM is a good one to see. And again, reasons for its importance. I mean, I don't know why anybody doesn't go into STEM except for the mathematically or engineering type challenged students that we know. My daughter. Yeah. Linguists? I don't know. But again, and everything really is pointing in the direction of some sort of innovation and change, and not doing the same things as the same old thing doesn't work. So I think it's federal, it's in the private level, it's on the governor's agenda. We want to see some change to make things work. I think that just means innovation. I don't know why. I'm not sure why that's there.
Well, I think that she put that slide in because
we
have on our campus we have Sandy Hook is one of our sites, and
right.
Sandy Hook is a marine location, and there's old army buildings there, and some of them are historic, so we can't touch any of those or do anything with those. And so we run some summer camps and marine science things out there. But so they want to do more with that. But then everything that comes back from the people that are running the stuff out there is, well, we just need more equipment. And what are you going to do with the equipment? Well, to get the grant for equipment. So they don't have a compelling idea of of how we're going to grow this center, this site, and how we're going to make it.
The program would be
right. They just, we need more equipment. We need both.
So we focus based on the same evaluation.
Right.
Thank you all. Did you capture that?
I think that's something that's true in general, that it has to be something that's a innovative, compelling idea, and what you said this morning, the Facebook presenter about telling a story. So a good grant tells a good story.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for filling that in. And also, I would just say, too, that as a grants director, people do call me up, and that guy has called me up and said, you know, I want this or I want that, and it's like, but we have like a concept paper idea that just really lists the basic elements that a grant would have. What's your, you know, rationale for this? Who's going to benefit? And components that will really help with the grant.
Do they fill it out before the meeting?
Then I ask them to fill it out. If they don't fill it out before they meet with me, we work together to you know, come up with something more full.
But I don't actually know.
Yeah, we have a. Oh, I can send it to you. I have a card. Yes, that's fine.
But I spent a lot of time on those really kind of things.
Yeah, no.
Okay, I understand you want to keep moving, that's great, but what are you going to do with it? What are the outcomes? What's for you to pass? Why is it important?
And most people don't have those answers. So think about that. And do use your grants offices, too. If you've got ideas, think about it, and to think about it more broadly than just... I don't know why this doesn't fit on the screen, but again, a keynote to... but anyway, you guys know what all goes into NSF ATE programs, I think. But probably the most important thing is to follow the guidelines. I read the guidelines and know what they require. This year, when we submitted in October, there were a couple of new elements. There was that data management thing that had to go in there, and everybody kind of saved it for the last, and nobody really knew what it meant. And I looked at a couple of them. We submitted one, and I looked at a couple of the other center grants and things like that, and it was just kind of confusing. So, you know, I think everybody approached it a little bit differently, but if it wasn't there, you weren't going to get funded. I mean, you weren't even going to get reviewed. So, and also they were very, I thought, specific this time about the flow of information. They really told you how the grant should read. And that was helpful because the readers certainly want to see that. You know, it said definitely start with, you know, what your project has done in the past and how does this build or, you know, differ from. So I think that's the main thing. Was that a hand or a stretch? It's get that down.
I'm itching to go here.
This was it was in the Community College Times just recently. I think it just reiterates the same things, that you basically follow the guidelines, but take that idea too. If you read the guidelines. You don't want to go to a program officer before you've read the guidelines. Read the guidelines, know indeed what it is you're after, not just a piece of equipment. Talk to your grants director, and then touch base with somebody at the agency, because they're real willing to help you flesh out that idea. And oftentimes, too, somebody looking to get a grant can come to the grants office. We can make the call together. The faculty member will do the talking, but a grants person will be there for like the kind of non-technical types of questions. How do we do this? How do we include that? Those kinds of things. So that's a support.
And we really try to streamline our communications with funders, so we prefer that we have, the college prefer to have our faculty come to my office so that we do make those all together, or at least coordinated in some way, so we don't have 20 different people contacting them like that.
Yeah, well, I think that that also points to the rogue grant applicants that you don't know anything about until after the fact. Many. So do use your grants office. That's all. Good resource. the TWOS program is just another one that's good, and it's going to be around at least for a little while anyway, like ATE, and one that does encourage community college participation, and you can get some equipment provided you do build a project around it. So that's what the deal is there. I think there really is a huge initiative because of fading federal dollars. There's public-private partnerships, or there are private partnerships from some major players in the foundation arena. They kind of really have helped set the stage for what's going to be funded. And a lot of it is driving the whole idea of innovative approaches to getting kids through school. It's no longer about enrollment, it's all about completion. So I think, again, just even in ATE projects or centers and those kinds of things, the ability to demonstrate that you're going to have graduates in a reasonable period of time is really, it's going to play heavy in the way those proposals are read. The Gates Foundation, I thought this was some interesting information because they, again, it's 2012 where we're looking for 50 million graduates. So, that we're going to have a shortfall of graduates by 2018 by 3 million. That doesn't seem like a whole lot. But head scratch, itch. But that was taken from, it's the Gates Foundation website. 63% are going to need, that's significant that 63% of the people are going to need, but that's post-secondary, at least a credential, and we're going to fall short. Kresge, again, I won't go into the details of Kresge, but they're another big player in the foundation world, and they do, the foundations play a huge role in influencing federal funding or federal directives, not necessarily funding. Itch? No, okay. Next Generation Learning Challenges, there is another round of that out. I don't know if anybody has had experience with the Next Generation Learning Challenges. This is the third wave, and again, it calls for both technology and innovation. There really have to be technological solutions to institutional issues, and they should be new strategies as opposed to same old, same old. The third wave is, this is funded by, there's like the Gates Foundation, and there's, I can't even list, there's like 5 different foundations that are a part of that.
But are these like,
no, this one is not. This one is not. They're not, I don't know if they're the major player, but they play a role. And the website is just Next Generation Learning Challenges. You wouldn't have to go to Gates or Lumina or anything like that. You just go to Next Generation Learning Challenges. We've taken a look at some of the other waves. This one is probably the most competitive because they're only awarding somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 or 8 grants. And again, there's a multi-million-dollar grants that cause your administrators to, freak out, and they can't accept the type of change that they're looking for. But they're worth looking at. It's a lot. Again, there's lots of money involved, lots of opportunity for innovation, lots of, again, they rely on the technology to move forward the change, but it would take a team, definitely a team. It's not an individual effort, it's a team. It could be multi-schools, and other partners and things like that in order to pull those off. The deadline is coming up soon. Again, and you can just, like I said, just go to Next Generation Learning Challenges. Online and blended, and of course they say that their philosophy is that the blended coursework's probably much better than just strict online.
That's what the research shows.
Yeah, that's what and they, Any kinds of questions, any things that you want to know about in the funding arena? You had said, I don't want to skip to, I don't know where the slide is, but I just want to address the question earlier about places to go to for searching for funds. Again, I do everything online, and people ask for books and foundation directories and things like that, and I don't use those, but I do subscribe to grants.gov. And I bookmark all the federal agencies like Department of Education, the Department of Labor, newsletters. So there is a newsletter for every particular profession. So any professional newsletter that you have is going to offer up what's new. For NSF and things through NSF, any of the centers post information on what's going on there. We have a state, something that comes through our State Department of Education, and you can look into that. They do pretty much the same thing as grants.gov. They just compile things a little bit differently, and they might include state initiatives. Again, ours are very limited as well. And then if you are looking for some local private money, the Foundation Center has a newsletter. They have all sorts of things. They have directories, but I use just the newsletter. It's called the Foundation, no, I don't know. It's not called that. It's PND, Philanthropy News Digest.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And it talks about upcoming foundation initiatives, and you can do some limited searches through the foundation directory for geographic areas as well as, interest areas. You can spend a ton of money on getting their material, but I don't bother. The other thing that is sort of an interesting trend is that it used to be that most of the information about grants that were out there came through the grants office, and you disseminate it to the appropriate people on campus. But now, people are sending me things left and right because everybody gets briefings from AACC, ACCT, anybody that's in the in the community college business, inside higher education. Any of the online publications, and the Chronicle. And so they see these, and they're all sent. And again, they're never pre-read, whether they're appropriate for us or not. So, but that's okay. You screen them and then send them out as appropriate. Does that help, or do you need?
No, that's good.
I think the next part of the discussion is really about how to put together a proposal. Is there anybody? Do you want to go through that? Do you want to have any other? You do want to go through that? Yeah. Okay. All right. So the most important thing is that I think that the third bullet down is you can't chase funding. You see what's out there. There's always ways to craft your idea, ways to craft an idea that matches the funder's initiative. But it might mean doing more than you had intended to do. add components, add community groups, add, business and industry or something that you weren't thinking of, but if you really want to achieve whatever your goal is, and that's what the funding agency is asking for, give it a shot. But don't chase funding. Something that lines up with your ideas is the best way to go. And again, I think the application periods are getting shorter and shorter. So if you have ideas, whether or not you have funding opportunity identified or not, go ahead and sort of flesh some things out. This is kind of what you want to do. This is who you want to serve. This is how you'd like to go about doing it. These are the resources. Develop partnerships, and you have something ready to go. And also, I think it's important you develop external relationships, but I think it's also really kind of important to develop internal relationships with, you could work with non-credit areas of the college. I mean, every college is structured different, and there's infighting and that kind of stuff. But our non-credit area is very, very aggressive with grants. It kind of helps them thrive, and oftentimes there's a role for a technology training component, and they might come to the credit side. Okay. So basically that's kind of the concept paper. Yeah, that's pretty much, it's a little bit more than that. But
Do you do that online? Do you actually have it online?
I think I have it online.
But like for people to actually apply, it says submit their ideas to you online, or not submit them?
It's a PDF.
It's PDF. It is.
Yeah, but what that talks about the mini grant.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, we've done that. What we've had over the past years, and it's migrated to my office, which I'm happy to do, and I think it's a great initiative too, is that our college used to be the president's office, now it's the EVP for Academic Affairs, and our foundation contribute a pot of money. And each year we have what are called the big grants, but they're Brookdale Innovation Grants. And so we take, whatever our college priorities are, and they're pretty broad. They're serving students, they're, getting community partnerships together and things like that. But every year, in January, we send out the guidelines and give them a few months to have applications complete. They're not for a lot of money. They're for $1,500. Because that's all we can get. I mean, maybe other institutional places can get more. But we have about $1,500 and about 10 awardees. And it's kind of a big deal. The reason I like doing it is because they do spur interesting grants and movement forward. We had one initiative that really became part of our NSF application in October, right, Mike?
Yeah, so it was one of my electronics faculty that is teaching our basic electronics, so he's developing some mobile apps. So he got $1,500 to just develop a couple of mobile apps, and we've got students involved. And so we've taken that now and are looking at then developing an entire sort of e-textbook app, which is an entire app with interactive elements, and then submitted that as an NSF proposal. But the idea with these innovation grants is you have to put together a budget, you have to figure out how you're going to assess whether or not you've been successful and get people thinking in the right frame of mind.
And we do one other component of that is that, and I think that it's a good thing, the faculty, after the year that they've got, it's a year-long grant, they do most of the work in the summer, and the following spring, they all do presentations on how their proposal, worked out, and there's a lot of interesting ideas that go along.
It's just trying to launch that very idea of for a variety of reasons. It's just been a few last year, a few years ago, largely because now any money that our foundation raises, any money that we bring in through fundraising in the college, outside of other grants, whether it's, prescribed what we need to do with it, it all goes towards saving costs. Because
we're tight guys.
So we don't have that, but I would love when times get better.
Times get better.
Right? To do that.
They have to.
I think it's a great idea, and for all the reasons you're saying, can really force people to think in the right way.
Yeah, it really is a great program, and we have readers from all over the college, so they learn what faculty are interested in doing. We have external readers from the foundation board, and actually this year our foundation gave us less than they normally do. So, but it's a good kind of thing. So find out if your college.
And some people really only need 1,500.
They do.
I mean, this is what I find. People coming in, I need a grant. I have to do this, and when it's well down exactly what you want to do, it's really only 1,500.
It is.
And we're not going to go to Amazon for that.
No.
Yeah.
No, and you're really not even going to go to a private. Yeah.
That's great. That's good.
Yeah, it's a good program, and I do really try to encourage like the really neat ideas to build up, scale up, and go to somebody else. Okay, that's fine. But I can send you that when I send you the concept thing. This was in there again because some people don't have grants offices and they work with consultants. Some do, and that's Cheryl who usually comes. And so anyway, your college is structured. There's going to be somebody there that should be able to help you with putting grants together. This isn't part of that's again resource development. Consultants often work with grants people too. Here's the key elements of every grant component. Even no matter what it is, they're going to be present in every single grant. I have a description. I can kind of go through it fast because we don't have too much more time. The abstract should touch on every part of element of the grant. The need statement, and again, this is what so many people don't get right. It's not why you need the grant, I want a piece of equipment, but it's why the population that you're going to serve is going to benefit and how they're going to benefit from it. So that's one of the, if you can master that, then your activities and everything just fall in place, honestly. This is in there again, they're kind of, this is NSF, intellectual merit and broader impact, which are unique to NSF, but again, they're elements that I think can appear in other grants because it's all of the new opportunities, funding opportunities that are coming our way, call for innovation, scaling up, dissemination, all of the things that NSF has had us been doing for years. So they're really elements that should be part of any initiative. Of goals and objectives, again, they have to be measurable. That's the main thing with that component. I think that's just an example of a goal, which is broad. The plan of operations, whatever you call it, answers how you're going to get to where you want to be. Keep personnel and institutional commitment. I think institutional commitment has always got to be there, and you do have to show the bright stars that you all are. You have to show yourself off and say why it is you can do it. Evaluation is good. You want to bring the evaluator on before you start even a grant proposal, which so often doesn't happen, but if it can happen, it's really the way to go. You have your evaluator there helping you sort of work through the goals and objectives because they have to measure whether or not you're achieving those at the end. So if you can bring them on board, that's great. Sustainability has always been a component, and that's nothing new. And sustainability doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be that you keep your project going. the way it is, you know, in the proposal, an element of it or something you can show is picked up by the college, and you get some sort of commitment to carry some elements of that on, and you've demonstrated sustainability. So it's not as scary as...
It could be changes in practice. So if let's say a portion of the grant is focused on professional development, right? And then people change the way they teach, and that continues.
That's absolutely true. And you don't, right, you don't...
Assuming they're there long enough.
Right, so you keep one person that can pass that down. But yes, absolutely, absolutely. Budget justification is really just that you can't have anything in the activity plan that isn't supported by a line item, and you can't have anything in the budget that isn't described in your narrative. The do's and don'ts are really, they're all kind of basic. They're basically that, you know, 5 minutes, okay. I'm just going to run through these because these are taken from NSF reader notes that I think actually maybe Gerhard shared them with us through CRD, through the professional organization. And it's interesting because there's noted strengths and then noted weaknesses are just the converse of all of the noted strengths. Do this, don't do that. But why don't we know that's gone. Okay. But I'll just end, and is there any kind of last sort of final question, or, you know, anything I can answer? Yeah.
Yeah, just touch upon the NSF planning grant, right, and how often those are awarded, or you know, again, what they typically would be used as a preparation for, like for a center application.
For a center application, hey Michael, do you think you can address some of the guys that you had a planning grant? Yeah. No, well that's not. Are they? 100. You can go for a grant. Oh, never mind. Go ahead.
Approximately 7 years ago, we applied for a planning grant. That was 70,000. I think that was going greater than being part of the proposal. That was awarded. We had a year, actually a year and a half to implement a formal proposal to become an education center. It was submitted within that year and a half period. Used 70,000 to implement the goals and objectives, and then it was not only the time grounds award, but a portion of what we requested to become our regional center was awarded instead of just the regional center in the project. And that was really the third phase was not awarded. So yeah, it was successful in the progress of $70,000 to study the need for a regional center.
And I think also, I can't answer specifically, you know, how many are awarded right now, but that is in the most recent set of guidelines. In the solicitation, it says approximately X number would be awarded. And I think then there's, again, where you really contact your program officer and see, this is what we're planning on doing, this is our time frame, this is what we've done, and I think you're going to get the best information that way.
That's the way that you have, Laura, where you have all the bullet items that are key to successful proposal. That would be the best, those advice, to make sure that you touch upon sustainability, evaluation component, uniqueness, addressing the student needs. If you don't have any one of those in there, it's really significant that there's a probability of getting awarded. Yeah, I have an idea as far as how many.
Yeah, but I do think it says it in these solicitations. Yeah, yeah.
And if your institution doesn't have any NSF grants or hasn't had any recently, the NSF does have under APE, the needs of APE grants, and I think, let me take the language here. So it's small grants for institutions need to APE, and it's now $200,000 over 3 years. So if you may have been part of another grant, but if you've never had a grant yourself, that might be an opportunity to get a small amount of money.
Yeah, is that your situation? Have you had any ATE projects before?
Oh, yeah.
You have, so, okay, all right. Okay. I think we're about out of time. Thank you for being a great audience, all sectors of you. Thank you very much. Oh, you're welcome.